Josore, and welcome to the BAPS Campus Podcast Series. Today's episode will be on business and entrepreneurship, and what it takes to build your own business. Our host today will be Akshar, who is a student at BAPS Business School, formerly known as CAS, at City University London, and is studying business management. Joining Akshar is Sanjay Patel. Sanjay graduated from the De Montfort University Leicester before obtaining a master's degree of business administration from the Imperial College London. With his extensive knowledge of pharmacy, coupled with his business acumen, Sanjay has gone on to open his own pharmacies, winning numerous awards along the way.
Jason, guys, welcome to this week's podcast. And today we have Sanjay and I welcome you to this lovely episode of this podcast. So my first question will be to Sanjay. When and how did you start your company, and what is it about? If you'd like to give us a bit about your company, a bit of background information, that would be really helpful.
Yes, online. So I became a pharmacist in 1996, and initially I worked for Boots the chemist, as you all probably know. And I worked there for about a year, and then I began doing some locum work. And probably everyone knows about pharmacy, but locum work just didn't challenge me enough, if I'm being honest. Some people obviously like it. For me, I did it for a year, but I needed more of a challenge. I found pharmacy a bit too monotonous as well in that way, because after just doing prescriptions, and there wasn't many different types of services like there are now. So I started doing, I just started looking for ways out of pharmacy in a really bizarre way. So I decided to do an MBA at Imperial College in 2001. That was just trying to sort of, get some management experience and business administration experience, just to sort of get, some different ideas into my head, maybe even go down the corporate world. And then bizarrely, the sort of specialization I chose at that time was entrepreneurship. And I had to do different projects, and it just really excited me to want to have my own business at some point. So what I decided to do at that, I was going to go down the corporate route, and then suddenly, this pharmacy came up for sale. And at that time, it was quite a low dispensing pharmacy. It wasn't really, a pharmacy I would say I would probably look at even now, but it was something that I could afford at the time. So I decided to venture in this. But before I did that, I wrote to Bapa, got his blessings, and, Puja Pramukh Swaminarayan at the time wrote me a letter back, say, if you've got the option to buy your own business, always buy your own business. Don't carry on locuming anymore, and buy your own business. So for me, that was it. I just had made my mind up. And so I decided to buy my first pharmacy business at the time. And then since then, that's what I've been in. So I've been in pharmacy, and I run pharmacy businesses, and that's my background.
Sanjay, what gave you the idea or inspiration to start your own business? As you said, Bapa gave you Ashirwad to start your own business. What gave you that motivation, that push to let's do this, let's start my own company?
I think one of the biggest things was that MBA course that I did. I met, so many different types of people. Some of the people that I met were brilliant. They had experience that I could never dream of ever meeting, in my previous sort of studying. So to meet a lot of these people, you almost get inspired. I mean, some of them were going to go into the corporate world. I mean, this was about 20 years ago. So some of them now are sort of global CFOs for places, and they really, really have done phenomenally. And, just being around that environment always made me feel like, no, you know what, I want to do my own thing. But in all honesty, one of the biggest things was Bapa, because I was doing, I was happily working, doing my locum work. And then I did this course, and then I had a choice to go into the corporate world, even because, when we're doing the MBA, we did learn about all the things that, and all the tools I would have got to go into the corporate world. But, I wrote to Swami and I said, look, this business has come. What shall I do? And, once you get his ashwad, that's it. It's all, the decision's made for you. And that gave me huge inspiration.
You must have faced difficulties. Everyone faces difficulties and challenges in their life. But what kind of difficulties have you faced in starting your own business? And how can we young striving entrepreneurs that we want to be like yourself, right? How can we avoid them in the future if they do come up, which we know they will, but how can we avoid them?
I think one of probably the biggest challenge at the start is money. You need money to invest into a business. And I think that for me was the hardest thing at the beginning, because whilst I was working, I saved a little bit of money, but at that time, pharmacy goodwills were, when we want to buy a pharmacy business, we have to buy its goodwill. And that could be, runs into the hundreds or even hundreds of thousands of pounds or even millions of pounds. So at that time, money was very difficult for me, but fortunately, I was able to get a loan. And I would always say that the most important thing you could do before you go into any business is do your numbers. The numbers are so important, because it's all well us having an idea and thinking we can do something, but so many businesses will fall flat on their face if they don't have, the numbers correct. And I think that is probably the biggest thing I would say is, before you start any business, look at the numbers. And then after that, your market's always going to change. Yeah, there's always going to be different things. There's going to be better players that come out there. There's going to be people who are, more advanced you, more entrepreneurial than you, more innovative than you, but you got to stay ahead of the game. It's just, it's almost as sad as it is, but it's survival of the fittest. So the more you can change yourself, keep ahead of your game, keep learning, keep skilling yourself up, that will always help you in whichever industry you go into.
So Sanjay Bhai, we all know how successful your business is right now. It's doing really well. And
but yeah,
we want to know, as young Kishores who are watching this podcast and listening to it, how did you build it into what it is now? And what were the key methods and techniques that you used?
I'd say probably the biggest thing in my particular business, being in the pharmacy world, was customer service. I think that I cannot probably emphasize how much, to be honest, whichever business you're in, customer service is it's what's basically going to drive your business successfully or not. So whether it's someone buying a few products off you or someone coming in for prescriptions, in my case, patients, it's so important. I think the other thing that's huge is effort. So whatever business you go into, your effort has to be maximal. So, if you go in with a half-hearted approach, you probably won't, you may succeed, but you may not. But I think the commitment of effort is probably really important, because I'd probably go as far as saying for, the 25 years I've been in pharmacy, I've had a pharmacy for 20 years. Of those 20 years, I probably have worked out flat for at least 18 to 19 of them. And I'm always trying to change. So effort's really important. And I think one of the key things also is the team around you. So I think having the key staff members around you is really important. I've got a new pharmacy manager on board with me. He's amazing. My dispenser's brilliant. So the team of staff that you have around you will be, in some aspects, they're going to be the front of your business in many cases. So you've got to have the right team around you, a shared vision, something where, you can all achieve your goals together, and, set them, achievable targets as well. So know where your business is going towards. So I think that's been really, really important for me, because I always measure where I'm going. So it's all one thing thinking your business is successful, but at the end of the day, it's the numbers that will tell you whether it is or isn't. So I think, have yourself goals and targets as well, because that's going to be the best measure of how your business is doing. I mean, other things like, in my case, patience, building up loyalty, your reputation of, for the business, marketing, that's important. How can you market your business? And then, more importantly, things like, what sort of area you're in, what sort of markets are you working with? So various things can have a real positivity. But one of the key things that you also got to really bear in mind is also looking at the negative aspects as well of any business. So, always make sure that you're aware of your competition, the threats around you, and that sort of thing is really important, because it's all well us striving and doing our best, but it's also good to have half an ear around your competition as well, just see what they're doing.
Thank you very much. You said you worked flat out, hard work. So as Bapa used to say, hard work plus praise equals success. So I'm sure that that's why your company is at the top of its game right now and its industry. So Sanjay bhai, you talked about customer service and how you should use customer service to attract new customers and build that loyalty, that relationship you have between your customers. How did you also build a profile of contacts? So we all know I'm studying business management right now in university, and one of the modules, they talk about how you should build a relationship with the person you're dealing with, building that contact, increasing that spread that you have. So did anyone from your family or your friends help you in that process of building your contacts?
So yeah, I think for me, unfortunately, when I bought my first business, my dad was diagnosed with cancer literally within a year. So normally he was like my backbone. He taught me everything I knew. Dad had businesses of his own. We had news agents, and I worked and helped him from a very young age. And for me, when I first bought the business, I was kind of expecting him obviously to be there and just give me that help and that little bit of, just that sort of knowing that dad's there. But unfortunately, he became ill with cancer and he died a year afterwards. So I probably was, to be totally honest with you, I was in pieces at the beginning because I just didn't know what to do. I'd suddenly bought this new business and I didn't, I kind of, whilst my dad wasn't in pharmacy and whilst I kind of needed pharmacy contacts, just having dad there, he probably knew other people in the industry and everything. So I kind of had to do a lot of things on my own, which is probably, refreshing for newcomers to know that you can do it on your own. I think one of the biggest things that help, is that, to be honest, you just got to be trusting, you've got to be honest. And I think if you can be trusting and honest, then the people you deal with will want to work with you. Whether it's people you're buying from or people who are supplying you, people, that I'm supplying. At the end of the day, if they have that feeling where they can trust you and, you've got that integrity, then I think that is probably for me the biggest key, because once you have that reputation, then people will say, okay, you know what, I want to work with this guy. I want to work with him. I'm happy. A lot of the time when I was first setting up, with pharmacy, we needed huge cash flows and pharmacy medicines are really expensive. So I had, lots of credit as well from suppliers. So they'd give me, thousands of pounds of credit on trust. So again, that's something which, again, is really helpful to a business. So if you've got contacts who trust you and they believe in you, then, you're going to get that little bit of help that you need. Another thing I've also noticed is, I think everybody's born differently. Some people have got gift of the gab, as they call it. I think if you have the ability to communicate well and effectively, that will always help, because, people will speak to you, you can empower them, you can have conversations with them, and that always helps, in my opinion. I think one of the biggest things, I think, now that I am the age I am now, I've been in the industry for 20 years. So as time goes on, age and experience, for sure it helps, because people know you, they know you've been in the industry for this long, they've got that, they know who they're dealing with, and that's really important. And what's nice is I've got a lot of younger pharmacist friends who, for me, it's an honor, but they'll ask me for advice now and help. And, and I love helping younger guys, because one day I was that younger guy, many years ago, I was that younger guy trying to, find my feet in the world. And, so I love helping new younger guys, and I do. And I think that's also really important, where if you have people, especially one of the nice things in satsang, we all know each other, a lot of pharmacists know. So we've got to try and help each other. So when you say contacts and family and friends, Mandir is like our family. So you will always find someone in your industry or someone who might be able to help you in that as well.
Yes, of course. We really appreciate how you help young Kishores like us as well. And a big thank you to BAPS campus team as well, because they do provide a lot of help for us Kishores who are at university right now. And if we have any questions, we can easily ask them. So that availability that there is between us and BAPS campus, the team that there is right now in the Mandir, a huge thank you from us Kishores. So Sanjay bhai, you said you're willing to help us out and who strive to be at the position at where you are at right now. So if you want if the way you connect to us young people, obviously our generation, we heavily rely on social media. So Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, you name it. There's just new apps coming in every single week, and we're just like bombarded with all these new social media apps and we don't know what to do. So as as life is progressing towards technology and social media, you must have used a platform to market your business, your pharmacy company. So are there any methods or tips that we could use in the future if we do want to start our own business? Do you have any? It would be nice if you could give us a few tips, please.
Sure. I think a lot of this depends on your business. So obviously, I'll just give you a really sort of basic example, like a coffee shop or a hair salon. They're not going to, potentially the local ones, they're not going to need that social media platform, or some of them do, some of them don't. But I think it is probably the most important thing that anybody can look at now. Most businesses must have some form of online presence now, I believe. And I think, for example, if you're doing e-commerce, then you've got to have a really good e-commerce functional website. If it's an information only website, then it probably doesn't have to be as interactive maybe. But I think with the e-commerce ones where you're buying things from it, it has to be, there's so many websites I go on, and I kind of, although I'm not from a IT background, I do obviously, like all of us, use loads of websites. And when I see a good website, I really commend it. If it's got a really good way of going through the website from viewing to purchase, it's refreshing. So I think a website's amazing. I think e-commerce is great for, you've got to see if the business sort of suits it. But for example, for me, I think Google has been really important. Now, I use Google for marketing in a huge way. So at the moment, we launched a travel clinic about 2 or 3 years back, and a lot of the travel clinic advertising that I did was to basically, it was using Google Ads. Now, normally my pharmacy prescription business, I don't really go that far outside the local encatchment because I rely on all the local surgeries mainly. But for travel, I actually go, we're based in West Hampstead, so I can go right up into central London, or even I used to get patients from South London. So I learned quite quickly the power of Google Ads, pay-per-click. So all of these things are really important, having a good organic listing. Some of this might be familiar, but like I said, I'm not a IT guru, but what I would always say is that if you're operating any business, if you don't have that skill set yourself, there's loads of companies out there who are available and willing to provide that service to you for a cost, which is what I've done. So obviously I've become more familiar with it now as time's gone on, but I think it's really important that any new business, anyone who's any young entrepreneur that's coming in, if you're not going to be fully into an online or an IT business, even if it's something that has a local sort of offering, I still think that you should have some form of, social media or marketing online, as a vehicle to help, in the background for your business. I think, with that said, I'm also quite traditional with, for example, in my pharmacy's case, I can tell you that, PPC and Google is really, really expensive. Some of the social media platforms, can be really expensive. So if you're just starting up a business and costs are quite, important to you, which they would be, it doesn't always necessarily mean that, you have to spend loads of money on advertising on the net. I still sometimes use the traditional posters in my window or really good A boards. And I find local customers walk past, and we do, at the moment we're doing PCR testing, which is a plug or anything, but we do PCR testing, and people have seen the board, the A board, and they think, oh yeah, they do it, and they walk in, and I get more traction from that than my Google advertising. But I think what I would probably say is run both. If your business can run local campaigns, whether it's through posters or leafleting or advertising in a local way, use that, but do not underestimate the power of, like you say, social media, because it's there and it's just going to get bigger.
Have you ever thought about using YouTube as a way of marketing your company? Because we know of YouTube. I mean, your kids might be watching YouTube right now as we're on this podcast.
Yeah,
Have you ever thought about using YouTube to campaign your?
Do you know what? Funny enough, you say that because we had a campaign, an NHS campaign that was,
Yeah.
we were lucky they chose to film the actual campaign within our pharmacy, and it was with some of these GMTV doctors and Dawn Harper. There was Hilary Jones, that's the famous GP doctor that's on there, and they filmed that particular campaign, the NHS campaign, Help Us Help You. And that was marketed, on YouTube. It was marketed through all the social media channels. So I didn't even have to do any of it, but the NHS were just promoting it. So, from that, I kind of learned that, YouTube would be brilliant, but I don't know if it'd be specific enough for me to do it. But at the same time, I wouldn't rule it out as such. So, I don't know, if I'm being honest, I don't know enough about how YouTube can help me, but I'm sure it could.
Obviously, I mentioned earlier that us young entrepreneurs, we look up to people like you who have worked incredibly hard with the Daya of Maharaj and Swami. What advice or tips could you give us as we're still in university, we're still learning, we're still going up, we're still trying to understand how business works, how do you manage a business? So are there any tips you could give us that who are interested in building their own business in the future?
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm quite humbled by your praise there, but it's I think there's so many other business people in the Mandir who are amazing as well, probably far more ahead of me. But I would say one of the things I would say is research your industry properly. Is it going to work? Is it going to do a plan? Make sure that before you just embark on something, you need to see if this model of yours is going to work. So research the industry thoroughly, do some test runs on it, and know your target audience, what sort of market you're going into, what's the competition like. One of the big things I would always say is this business scalable? Can it grow? Can it grow bigger? And are you prepared for this? Like, you might be thinking, okay, I want to set this, I don't know, record collecting business up online, but what if it suddenly becomes massive? Are you able to scale it up? The world is changing rapidly now. So, automation, AI, artificial intelligence, all of that's really, really, coming on fast. So all of these things are, areas where young entrepreneurs can really home into, because I think that's where for me, that's where the industry is going towards. And even in my industry, funny enough, they're looking at, the Amazonization of prescriptions. So that's a threat to us, and we have to look at that. So always look at, what your competition is in your business. I think a really important thing with any young entrepreneur is, when do you expect to be making a return on your investment? Like you can start business up, but when, what year are you looking to make any return on this? Is it going to be 5 years, 10 years? And then most importantly, have you got enough cash flow to keep the business going? Like there's no point starting an idea up and then unfortunately running out of business in a year because you can't make any sales or anything. So I'd say always have I know I said it earlier, but numbers are so important because, you've got to make sure the numbers work. Any entrepreneur, so many people I see and I've met who buy businesses and then unfortunately the numbers don't work and they've fallen flat on their face, sadly, within months. So that's important. And I think once you've looked at all of the things I've just mentioned now, follow your heart and have faith in, Maharaj, and just, hopefully he'll take care of a lot of things for you.
Sanjay bhai, so you've said you're in this business for 20 years, am I correct?
Yes.
So
right.
are there any inspiring or memorable incidents or memories that may occurred over those 20 years? And if it's too personal, then you don't have to share it. But if there's anything there that has happened in the last 20 years that you could please share with us.
Yeah, no, thanks. Look, as with any business, there's so many ups and downs. I've had some really, really amazing highs. I've had some lows. And I think you just persevere through them. just have your faith that, Bapa will make it come through at some point. So that's really important for me. But I think one of the key things for me is that, every time I've tried to buy a pharmacy, I've had Bapa's Ashirvad, and whichever way, everyone goes in with different, thoughts. But I think once I've had his Ashirvad, I've always felt like, I've got that inspirational sort of figure that's looking over me, and that's always helped me. But in terms of, like, I'd say memorable incidents, I'd say there was a particular year where our pharmacy got the Professional Development of the Year award nationally, which we were really, really obviously proud of as a team. And
congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you. And then we also won the same year, we won the Best Marketed Pharmacy of the Year award as well. So that for me was probably a real pinnacle moment, because it was a lot of, I was a lot younger at that time as well. A lot of energy had got in at the beginning. So it kind of ties in with the advice I'd give to any entrepreneur, that initial effort you put in is so paramount, it's so key. If you're driven and you really put the energy in at the beginning, it's so good, because I think this award came probably 3 or 4 years into my journey. So it probably just made me feel a lot better about the way things are progressing. And, you kind of feel that all that effort you put in makes it work. And obviously, making money is one thing in the business, but just that, for me, it was also the just achievement that, we've been able to help so many people, help patients out there, and just, be recognized in our area as someone that's, doing good for everybody there. So that also, along with, obviously, I always believe financial reward will come along with it if you put the effort in, but at the same time, there's a lot of other fulfillment that I get from what our team and the pharmacies managed to be able to do over the years.
That must have been quite early on in your career, as you said. In the first 4 years, you got that award.
That's right.
That must have given you a huge it must have given you a huge confidence booster in that sense.
I think it did. I think, especially being young, I think I was probably about 27 at the time, so 26, 27. So I was young, and it just, it was really nice in that you kind of feel that effort does equal, you can reach your goals and targets, and it kind of probably inspired me to keep going. And then, you do get ups and downs. Like I said, it's not always been plain sailing. You'll have lulls, you have times when your business isn't doing as well. Then, you just got to pick yourself up and remember the moments that did go well, and that should really inspire you as well, because the moments that didn't go well, I look back at and I think, okay, well, remember the moments that did go well. Let's build on those, because we can do it. You've got you've done it before. And that's the other key thing as well, that sometimes when you don't succeed on one particular project, or if you're within a small business, not everything's always going to go right. But when you hit a bit of failure, build on it, look at it and think, all right, why have I failed on this occasion? And you can definitely learn from it and push forward again. So don't just fall flat on your face. Look at it and think, okay, I can build on this.
Finally, Sanjay bhai, the last question, the main one. How has satsang and mandir helped and inspired you with the constant motivation and push and the energy that you need into managing your own business? As you said, you must be attending weekly every Saturday Sabah. Well, now because of COVID, it's all online. But how has the upbringing of the mandir, like Bal Mandir, Kishore Mandir, Yuvak Mandir, probably Saik Mandir now, how has that helped you?
I'd say probably one of the key things that helps is, I think the mandir keeps us all grounded. It's from a very young age, you're taught to respect all of those around you. I think that's been really, really good for me, because it's given me that being able to sort of speak to peers and colleagues and have that respect the same way we're taught respect at the mandir. So you kind of extend that to all the people you work with and your industry. And but I think in terms of like inspiration from the mandir, what bigger inspiration could I have really dreamt and asked for than from Swami Maharaj? Like I said, every single business I've bought, I've had 3 pharmacies, and each and every pharmacy I've written to Bapa, and each and every time he's taken the time, with a really, extended, lengthy letter back, which I've got all of them still, and I've got them in a folder where he's given me his blessings. And I think, especially if, as we're all Satsangis, we kind of, for me, that sort of message from him is, you can't ask for more inspiration than that, because you kind of just know that whatever your journey you're going to go on, he has your back. You're going to go through good days and bad days, as I've already said, but I don't think there's a day where I look at it and think, oh, I had bad times, and I never thought of it, Papa, why did you do this? Why did you put me through this? Because we kind of know he's got a big plan for this. And I've seen that unfold with my own eyes, where I've had bad periods, and then, it may have been my test. It may have been something that he was testing me with. But then, 2 years later, all of a sudden, the business has done something that I'd never dreamt it could, sort of thing. So I think faith is really important with any business that you're going to, in terms of inspiration. It keeps me motivated for sure. And I get a lot of energy. And just to, I have a little mandir in my pharmacy at the back in my stockroom. So every morning when I go in, I'll always, without ever forgetting, there's never a day I'll forget. I almost feel like it's almost like you haven't brushed your teeth if you haven't gone, to the back there and do darshan. So I'll always go there every morning. I do my darshan. And then when I leave every night, without fail, even if I've left early, if I'm leaving a bit earlier that day, I'll always make sure I go to my little mandir at the back and just get that, inspiration. Thank him for everything. I mean, I've got a little picture of my late father there as well. So I go there and pranam for him as well, So it's something that's like a habit for me, and I do it every day, but it does give me that motivation, inspiration that, I can't emphasize more that you're going to get good days and bad days. And, you can't just look at the good days and then feel bad about the bad days. You've got to just take everything in your stride. And then, it's a journey. I think, I've also been really fortunate with the mandir in that, especially being in pharmacy and things, one of the luckiest sevas for me, without going into any details, is I can give back to the mandir as well. So, our business has, been able to succeed in many ways. And if ever I can help the mandir with things, I always have been, I always will and will continue to do so. And there have been times when, we have been asked, and I'll always help. So that gives me a lot of self-satisfaction and fulfillment when, the mandir. See, with us, we're so blessed as a community that there's so many, entrepreneurs in the mandir, and there's so many different professionals out there, doctors, dentists, engineers, architects. They're all, top of their game, and the mandir can call upon any of these people to help our Sanstha. And that's where, we should all be really inspired and privileged to want to get to a position where we can help mandir back as well. So I would say that, that should also be a driver for a lot of people, that, when you do get to a pinnacle of your career at any point, then, always make sure, never forget the mandir and what part it's played for you, and where you can help, always help.
That's correct. Mandir is a huge, huge inspiration, especially for us youngsters, where we're going through this difficult time period where all these external worldly activities, they're all getting into our lives, and it's basically fighting with your mind as much as possible right now, especially during COVID. We're all stuck at home. All we can do is think about Netflix, YouTube, Amazon Prime Video, or just binging with a bowl of popcorn and just chilling. So thank you very much, Sanjay Bhai. This has been a huge learning curve for me, especially, and probably for the Kishors that are tuning into this podcast as well. So we thank you very, very, very much from the bottom of my heart. And there's so much to learn from this, and I'm truly grateful that I got this opportunity of hosting this podcast, and I truly have learned a lot, and there's still a lot to do. And as you said in one of the answers, that hard work. So hard work plus praise is equal to success. So that's the main motto I think we can take out of this podcast.
That concludes this week's podcast. We hope you've been able to take something meaningful away from this discussion. Jai Swaminarayan.